Chapter 2: The Debt of Rebellion. As he stomped through the pines of Pepetto Forest, Rinku's anger colored his vision redder than the skies above him. These expansive woods used to be a place of solace for him and Eri. After she was born, he would take her here to give her some sun without overwhelming her young eyes. The scattered dim light through the pine branches served as suitable shade, and they would play and laugh as Utsu, their mother, looked on in contentment. These were the very trees under which they'd once had a picnic, soaking in the newly sprung springtime weather, while a trio of choo-choos had attacked them. Rinku, only 9 years old at the time, picked up a tree branch and defeated all 3 monsters by himself. His mother had been frozen in shock, and Eri was, of course, too young to do anything other than scream. Rinku had saved their lives. Though Eri didn't remember the details of the incident, to this day, she'd kept the blue choo-choo jelly left over from the kills in a jar in her bedroom. She was innocent in every way, even now, and no matter what Elder Chi-Chi said, no matter how hard he tried to convince them, Rinku knew there was no way he could protect his sister from what was to come. Ganon was back. He resisted the urge to punch the tree trunks surrounding him. He hated the feeling of helplessness that was surging through his very spirit. The rage and sorrow mixed together, spawning a cloudy despondence that he could not break through. It was all too much. If his mother hadn't abandoned them, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Even if Ganon had still resurfaced, at least they would have the love and protection of one parent. All of the village children had both parents to run to when things went horribly. Eri would say they now had Chi-Chi, but Rinku couldn't care less about the old man. Besides, Chi-Chi only cared about his precious Ude. He would probably die of old age soon anyway, and then they'd really have no one. Rinku halted, suddenly exhausted, and slumped to the ground against a tree. If there was nothing he could do to stop the future anguish from pummeling toward him, then maybe he should just give up now. Maybe he shouldn't wait for death to come to him. Maybe he should find it himself. Before he could further ponder that morbidity, movement caught his eye a few feet from him. Something furry wiggled in the pine needles blanketing the ground. His curiosity took over, and he crawled to it on his hands and knees. A squirrel, injured and helpless. It was bleeding, and Rinku couldn't see from where, but it looked bad. He contemplated. Tiny squeaks sounded from its mouth, and it twitched and seized, obviously beyond help, so it seemed. Should he try to help it anyway? Give it a chance? A chance in this world? He let his gaze travel to the angry red skies. They seemed to mock his empathy.
Why bother saving
anything or anyone? They screamed. It is all hopeless. Rinku knew what he must do. The creature was dying. He should speed up its inevitable end. He reached for a heavy rock and lifted it high above his head. The time for hesitation was gone.
End this creature's pain before something else does.
As he moved to crush the creature, it suddenly began to bloat. It grew larger and larger, rounder and thicker than the tree trunk next to it. Rinku dropped the rock and stumbled backward, bewildered and horrified. It formed itself into an amorphous shape, blending limbs and eyeballs and ears, swirling animal and human body parts together until finally settling on the figure of a man. Had Rinku hallucinated this terrifying transformation? Was he driven insane by his anger and dejection? Or was this all just a dream? The man spoke. with a smooth yet serpentine voice.
Don't be afraid, boy. You passed my test.
He stood tall, thin yet chiseled, black hair combed neatly on a square head, a bearded jaw cut at sharp angles. He wore rich clothing, and his eyes shone the brightest green Rinku had ever seen. Rinku leaned back on his hands, still on the ground, eyes wide and staring. What in Hyrule just happened? He was terrified, but he could not take his eyes off this mysterious being. He was made of flesh like Rinku, but seemed so ethereal.
What are you?
He asked the man, who cocked his head to one side and regarded him with a benevolent gaze. He squatted and held a hand out to Rinku, offering to help him up.
I am called Yami.
He replied. His voice was uniquely accented and seemed to echo through the trees. The name rang a distant bell, but Rinku couldn't recall where he'd heard it. He didn't want to touch him, the image of jumbled limbs fresh in his mind. But he accepted the hand anyway, befuddlement hazing over him. Yami lifted Rinku up and swiped a leaf from his shoulder, then looked him square in the face with a smile.
You're more impressive than I imagined.
What did that mean? Rinku tried to fight off the thought that he hadn't done anything impressive since the choo-choos. Yami gazed at him with awe, his godlike presence overwhelming Rinku's eyes. Wait, godlike? Rinku remembered where he'd heard the name Yami.
You're the god of law.
His mouth hung open in bewilderment. If he hadn't just seen the odd transmutation, he wouldn't have believed it. But there was no mistaking. Power like that did not exist within earthly beings. Rinku rarely paid attention in school, but what had always grabbed his attention was the subject of gods. Goddess Hylia, after all, served as the very foundation of their town. Emphasis was made on gods and their duties in children's studies, a paramount fixture of the curriculum. Hylia took the stage, of course, but they did learn of other gods as well. He remembered Yami as a lesser-known god, one who was created not only to observe and police Hyrule's ever-changing peoples, but also to serve the higher goddesses, the three, to do their will, which meant he must be here to perform that very task now. Yami's expression shifted, becoming less genial and more stoic.
I prefer God of Law and Dealings. My focus evolved over the course of my existence here among your people, but I still work to preserve the law of the land, yes. I aim to create new beginnings, and part of that involves you, Rinku.
Rinku leaned his back against a tree, clutching it, steadying himself. When he first entered these woods today, his thoughts were bent on endings, not beginnings.
I can see you're overwhelmed. Allow me to put you at ease.
Yami bowed low.
I am here to guide you, Rinku, because you are the legendary hero.
The sincerity in Yami's eyes made Rinku's heart race, but it couldn't be more of an impossible statement. Legendary hero. The term had been thrown around incessantly since Rinku could remember. The hero of time, who sealed Ganon away centuries ago, had disappeared from Hyrule, never to return. And though the land experienced an age of peace after he left, the people still lived on the precipice of fear. Fear that Ganon would yet again rise, and they would have no hero to save them. The legend went that one day, a new hero would take his place. Someone who would gain the trust and support of the three. Someone who had the strength, the wisdom, and the courage to take on the beast and free Hyrule from destruction. Rinku commonly fantasized that that very hero would stride into Hylia's one day, wielding a powerful sword and swearing his allegiance to the land and its people. But himself, the hero, unlikely, preposterous, stupid. And yet, the god of law and dealings was claiming it to be true. Yami lifted an eyebrow and a knowing smile crossed his face.
Yes, the legendary hero. You must be taken by surprise, but I swear to you, by all that is holy and true, I would not feed you rubbish.
Okay.
Rinku replied, the wheels in his head turning.
Prove it.
A god of all beings should be able to give evidence towards his claims. Rinku needed to see it to believe it. Yami squinted his eyes for a moment, as though he wasn't expecting Rinku to test him. Testing a god was no small action. If he wanted to, Yami could strike him dead where he stood. But Rinku didn't care. He felt that his end was near anyway. Instead of calling upon death to smite him, Yami smiled again.
This is why they chose you. The Free were adamant that you were the hero Hyrule needed. I must be honest, I did not believe them myself at first. But I have come to realize, after observing you for a time, that your spirit and inner fire will be the light that guides us all, Rinku.
But how? I'm no one. I'm just a boy with no parents.
Rinku felt like he was whining at this point, and he might have felt shame any other time. But apathy reigned.
A boy with one parent.
Yami corrected him. Rinku didn't hide his eye roll.
Maybe. For all I know, she's dead too.
Yami lifted his head, eyeing the sky.
We will all be dead soon if you do not accept this mission, Rinku.
He said with solemnity. Rinku worked his jaw, grinding his teeth, as he did when his anxiousness became too prevalent. He remained silent, unsure how to respond. Yami continued, gazing upon Rinku with kind eyes.
What if I told you that the journey for which the Three have chosen you will not only save Hyrule, but also your mother?
How do you know?
I am a god, boy.
Yami chuckled.
I know many things.
He let out a contemplative sigh and stroked his chin with a forefinger.
I am not certain I should tell you this, but in order for you to accept your destiny, perhaps it is necessary.
Tell me what?
Rinku was getting tired of this god's runaround. Yami hesitated, then set his lips in a thin line, his brow furrowed.
You must understand, I'm only so powerful. The same can be said for other gods. Goddess Hylia, for instance, is more limited than anyone knows. Even though your people follow her, worship her, she is not all-present, all-knowing, or even all-merciful.
These statements would get Yami flogged in the streets of Hylias. Rinku scoffed in skepticism.
Hylia is the only reason my town exists.
Indeed, she has a bias for you, but she is not the one who called you to destiny, Rinku. The Free have done that. Your mission to save Hyrule does not involve taking up a sword and slaying a beast. It involves undoing the power of a goddess who has allowed your land to fall into ruin.
What Yami was claiming made no sense. Hylia was known as an empathetic goddess, a higher being who cared for Hyrule and its denizens, a gracious spirit, a merciful mother to all. This was blasphemous. Rinku shook his head in denial.
You may be a god, but you don't know everything. You just admitted that. Why should I believe anything you say?
Yami's gaze intensified, causing Rinku to clutch the trunk of the tree tighter.
You will have to trust me, boy. Trust that the Three sent me here to test you, to observe you, to give you a choice. Hylia has committed the highest treason possible, against Hyrule and against you. The Three claim that you are the one who can stop her from destroying this world and everything in it you love.
He paused.
She has undone the seal of the beast.
She released Ganon?
The goddess has her reasons, but they are selfish in nature. They do not consider her own people, the ones who love her and trust her. For this, she must atone.
Rinku flushed. If this was true...
So what, I'm supposed to be the one to make her?
The only one.
Aries' kind eyes flashed in Rinku's mind. The happiness that would alight her face if she were to see their mother walking up to them, appearing out of nowhere, having come home because of him. If he could do that, he really would be a hero. To the only person who mattered. Yami seemed to recognize Rinku's consideration.
I have a way for you to find your mother, and it involves getting close to our target, Goddess Hylia herself.
Yami continued to explain that Hylia was considered an investigator for the Three. They commonly sent her on errands to study the people, to figure out solutions to their problems, to bring peace to them, little by little. He claimed that if Rinku were to ask her, Hylia would gladly find his mother for him.
But if what you say is true, it means Hylia is evil. She released Ganon to wreak havoc on us all, to kill us all. Why would she help me?
Again, she has her reasons for committing this crime. She believes it'll be for the good of all in the end. But she is misguided. She will want to help you because you are one of her people. She will want to do everything she can to arrange for your happiness, even in the face of destruction she has caused.
It made no sense to Rinku. No sense at all. That she could do this, betray their precious Hyrule, while at the same time lovingly help a Hyrulean soul. But Yami seemed so sincere. Passionate even. He was a god, asking a young mortal for help. The desperation the Three must have felt to do this.
If I ask her, and she agrees to help me,
Rinku said, in caution.
Then I'll do as you and the Three ask. I'll be your hero.
Yami's eyes lit up.
Your destiny awaits you, boy,
he said with a smile.
Now, I must warn you that sacrifice is a necessary element of this mission, but you are well aware of that already. You passed my test to see what choice you would make. You chose as I expected you would. And now?
Yami gazed around the green forest, shadowed by a blood-red sky.
Now you are ready to make the next one. I just love a good deal. The boy is perfect for my plan. If he had chosen to coddle the pathetically injured animal I was disguised as, I would have moved on. But as I suspected, Rinku chose to kill it. He has the right mindset for what I need. It means, when it comes down to it, he will make the hard decision against my enemy. No matter how beautiful or vulnerable or sensitive she seems, gods cannot be killed. Not in the earthly sense. However, weaken them enough, take their power away, and they become more human than God. I have tasked the gullible boy with finding the artifacts that have the power to do this. Perhaps gullible is too brash a word. He questioned me more than I expected. It took everything in me to keep my temper checked. But I have learned from centuries of making deals with earthly beings that they respond to emotional manipulation more than anything else. The idea of finding his mother was too tempting for him to reject. Typical. Children are the most difficult to convince, I have found. Their imagination knows no bounds, and yet they are still grounded in reality. Unlike adults, who soak in indecision and insecurity, children ask concrete questions. They don't care how they sound, and they certainly do not think about risk. They do care for reward, however, and that is how I get them. Every time. The fact that I've already made deals with both of Rinku's parents does not slip my notice, but I have also found that families tend to be more open to dealings as a whole. It must run in their blood. For now, I have told the boy to run back home and tell no one of our exchange, citing that everyone is in danger of succumbing to Hylia's shady dealings. Ironic, I know, but tomorrow he will venture into these woods again to find her. This is a place Hylia longs for. I have never been fond of forests, as my dealings normally take root in the cities of this world. She explained it to me once. Her mind is full of the chaos of destiny, paths crisscrossing and mazing together into a tangled labyrinth, and the prayers of the people. When this becomes overwhelming, the forest calms her. After what she's done, I imagine she'd desire to retreat here. Rinku will beg the guilt-ridden goddess for help, and she will not be able to refuse. I was not lying when I told the boy she could help him. Hylia is truly a grand investigator. She, in fact, found me out quite quickly. That is the art of dealing. You must use the truth to your advantage. Lies are necessary, but the truth is much more powerful. It can lead your target to your desired result faster than pure deception. So the boy will ask, and she will agree, and the first step will have been taken. Once he has accomplished this, he will find the Stone of Silence, created to dampen a god's power. It will be the first of 3. One artifact alone cannot do what I need, but 3 will work together to not only weaken her, but debilitate her. Then, and only then, can I make my move. I would acquire these magical treats on my own, but as a god myself, well, I would be asking for torture. Instead, I will use the boy, and we will both get what we want. My deals are like a serpent's bite. You won't feel the heat of them until after you realize you've been bitten.
The 3 eye me with curiosity. It is confounding at times, communicating with these higher goddesses. While my own emotional capacity can be quite contained, the 3 have none at all. When calamitous events have happened to Hyrule in the past, they've not shed one single tear, nor shown any reaction other than simple intrigue. This is by design. A higher goddess should not be bogged down by earthly emotion when pulling and arranging the strings of destiny. However, even to my higher mind, it is bewildering. As I stand before them, within the dimensional space of our heavenly realm, I explain what has happened to a point. I do not tell them that Ganon was released. Instead, I tell them he broke from his seal, as we always suspected he would. They will believe my stretching of the truth. I have not given them reason to doubt me before.
This has occurred sooner than we predicted.
They tell me. Din, Furor, and Nehru are three separate higher goddesses, yet they act as one unit and speak as such. They did not used to merge in this way, but over time they have evolved into godly beings that even I do not fully comprehend.
We are caught by surprise, our child.
A sting of shame alights within me. The three created me, made me what I am, gave me my power and my skill. They knew that empathy was a necessary element in godly rule when dealing directly with earthly beings. And also knowing they possessed none, they decided to craft my own emotional scape. I am their child, and I am lying to them. But it is a greater good that I am working toward, a greater good that will be worth this treachery. All of my treachery. It is much sooner, yes. Perhaps he is stronger than we ever knew, I reason. But it matters not. Something must be done. The three remain stoic. Their lights, red, green, and blue respectively, shine so brightly, shadow cannot live here. It would quite literally cause blindness to an earthly one.
We have aims to quell the beast's power. The drowning will come, our child. But it will take time to arrange. The people must pray for it.
I keep my feelings from my expression. I admit, a vexation dwells within me when I am faced with the three and their tactics. Of course the people want peace. But if they do not pray for it as a whole, the three do not adhere. I do not respect this choice they have made, but they have made it. They have decided over time that in order to remain unbiased, they will not oversee the lands which they created. Instead, they stay behind and send lesser gods like myself and Yami into the world to monitor it. They do not watch what happens below them. They know that I will report to them, and so they remain idle. And they do nothing unless the people desire it enough. They can hear the prayers of the people, but that is the extent of it. In the early years, this was not the case. They would communicate directly with heroes of the time, but it is not their way any longer. My unvoiced belief is that this behavior is folly. Yami agrees with me, an irony that does not escape me. Their apathy creates a breeding ground for evil to grow, for villains to take form and attempt coups of the world, hence the beast. On the other hand, it also creates space for me to put my own plans into motion, to arrange the strings of destiny myself. So I do not argue their response. Instead, I reply, I will encourage the people to pray, mothers. The drowning will commence earlier than planned, but I will ensure that you have the time to envision the task. I do not say that this time will also allow me to do the same. The three assent, and their lights dissipate, nary a goodbye spoken. I will return to Hyrule and commence with my own task, one that, thankfully, the three have no desire to supervise.
The forest felt different now. Rinku startled at every crinkling leaf and chittering animal. The town had been overcome with gossip of monsters appearing from nowhere in random places, attacking unsuspecting travelers. He'd heard nothing of this happening in the forest, but with the skies still burning red above him, anything was possible. The townspeople were claiming that the monsters spawned from above, from the very sky. He walked slowly, watchful. Eri had been beside herself with worry. Nevertheless, she did her best to keep Rinku calm and secure as usual. So he'd been doing his best to make that easy for her. He knew he was difficult to deal with at times, but with his newfound knowledge and mission, he had gotten a better grasp on his emotions. He had to bring their mother back, to make their family whole again. Nevertheless, this journey would be a difficult one. According to Yami, Rinku must locate 3 magical artifacts that, together, would weaken Hylia to the point where Yami could then detain her and take her to the 3, where they would enact swift justice upon her, what she deserved. It was still hard to conceive that she would betray Hyrule in this way, but if she truly believed that she was working toward Hyrule's benefit in the long run, Rinku had to admit that it was plausible. For now, he must find her, somewhere in the forest, and beg for her help. The thought of it darkened his mood. Pride nipped at him, a belief that asking for help meant weakness. This was something his father, Mubo, had instilled in him from birth. If you need something, you get it yourself. You do what is necessary in order to make it happen. Don't use people. Use your own power and strength to gain success instead through hard work and perseverance. Rinku supposed that wasn't the best advice, given that his father had been murdered and thrown into the sea. Whatever success he'd been going after, he hadn't attained it. Instead, he just got himself killed. Pathetic. Rinku would not be like his father. If he needed help, he would ask for it. Besides, his father had always said not to use people. Hylia didn't qualify. People prayed to the gods asking for help all the time. All of this had an endgame, and, the 3 willing, it would be worth it. As he tripped over a root, catching himself before he stumbled forward, the sweetest notes drifted to his ears. A high, clear voice, singing something he'd never heard. He froze and quieted his breathing so he could hear every word, but it seemed to be in a language unknown to him. Whatever it was, it soothed his mind and body, the sound waves washing over him, lulling him into some kind of irresistible trance. It strayed farther from his ears, and he shook himself, a need to stay close to the celestial sounds overtaking him. He stumbled, moving in the direction from which it came, almost clawing at the air to grasp the sounds. And suddenly, he came upon her, sitting in a sunny meadow, butterflies, bees, and birds flittering about her golden head. She seemed to be singing to them, and they were just as entranced as he. He could only stand there and watch as she sang. The sunlight touched her hair in all the right places, creating glimmering shimmers that seemed to bounce this way and that. Her beauty was more than stunning. It was unfathomable. In one abrupt second, her singing stopped. The animals scattered, and all of the magic Rinku felt seemed to vanish. His consciousness was sucked back into the hellish, red-skied landscape, and he felt his usual despondence wash over him. The contrast made it all much worse than before. She spotted him. At first, an expression of fear flashed in her bright blue eyes, but they softened once she realized he was just a child. At least, that was what he assumed. He was trying to crawl out of the depressive state he was feeling so that he could speak, but he was finding it difficult, so she spoke first.
Hello.
She said in a smooth, echoey voice, much like Yami's, except less accented.
And who might you be?
She smiled at him, and he was able to finally break from the heaviness.
I'm Rinku. I hail from Hylia's.
He replied, her face lifted in contentment.
Well, That is my favorite town,
she said.
What are you doing wandering the forest, Rinku? At a time like this? It is very dangerous, you know.
I know.
How was he to do this? Gain the trust of a goddess while knowing his motivations were not fully pure? He couldn't find the words he needed, and just stood there in an awkward stance, wringing his hands. But he must. He searched his mind and sputtered out,
Are you a goddess?
She hesitated. Yami had told Rinku that Hylia roamed the earth as a Hylian to blend in with the people. He wasn't supposed to know that she was a goddess, but he thought he knew how he could spin it.
Your singing,
He clarified.
it did something to me. Something magical. Only a goddess could make sounds like that.
Her eyes squinted with her smile, and she let out a whispery laugh.
You are quite the observer.
She glanced towards the ground, then back up at him, a bit of mischief in her eyes.
Can you keep a secret?
He gave her a vehement nod.
I do not normally tell people who I am, but there is something about you, Rinku.
Her brow furrowed for a moment, as though she was trying to figure him out. Was this reaction because he really was the legendary hero, as Yami claimed?
I am Hylia.
He knew what to do. He went to his knees and bowed low, his forehead touching the ground.
Goddess Hylia, Holy Mother, it is an honor.
She stepped toward him, reaching for his chin, and lifted it, her eyes sadly sweet.
Child, there is no need to go to such lengths. I am here to take care of you and your people. I do not worry to be worshipped.
Rinku couldn't help but balk at her beauty. Whether she was an evil goddess or not, she was beyond anything he'd seen, even in disguise.
Maybe we were fated to meet.
He said, saturating his voice with excitement. He cringed when she raised an eyebrow. He might be overdoing it.
I just mean that.
He swallowed down a nervous hiccup.
May I make a request of you, Holy Mother?
Calling her mother was a requirement in Hylius, as his people viewed her as their collective heavenly matriarch. It was believed that Hylians, after all, were created in her image. But he had to admit, it was nice to use the word in a direct sense. With his own mother gone, maybe dead, he hadn't done so in a very long time. A streak of resentment for Utsu still lived within him, even though he didn't truly know if she'd abandoned them. But it felt like abandonment. Regardless, bringing her back was the only way he could make any sort of difference in Aries' life. So he must try his hardest. Hylia hesitated again, mulling over his question, but then relented.
You may, child. However, I cannot guarantee assent. You know this, yes?
Rinku allowed tears to fill his eyes.
I do, but I beg of you, Holy Mother, to please consider what I'm asking. The world is setting into chaos and violence. It's the only thing I can do for my family. The only thing that will make them happy in what could be their final days.
He spoke with the reverence their people were taught to use when praying to her, and he spoke truthfully. It wasn't difficult to express the emotions sparking in him. Hylia seemed more and more intrigued as he spoke.
Tell me, child, what is your request?
He explained his plight, that his mother went missing, and no one knew where she was, that Rinku and Eri had been fatherless and motherless, the elder of their town forced to take them in, that they had been shunned by everyone in Hylius, that no one even gave them a passing glance these days. He begged her, pleaded with all of his might, to help him find her.
If she's alive, if she's alright, I have to bring her back. She's our earthly mother. She's all we have left.
His voice shook with the tears that fell down his cheeks. He did not care if he looked weak. He did not care if Yami ultimately got what he wanted. He just needed Hylia to hear him, to understand. The goddess's expression filled with empathy. She knelt down to the ground with Rinku and took his hands in hers.
Oh, child. I am so sorry for all of the loss you and your sister have endured. It has never been the Three's intent to allow such things to happen. But happen they do.
Rinku thought she was going to turn him down gently, to say that bad things happen all the time and he needed to accept it. But instead, she smiled again, lifting some of the darkness from his soul.
Of course I will help you,
she declared. Rinku couldn't stop himself. He launched into a hug, squeezing the goddess tightly, thanking her with fervor. She hugged him back, and he tried not to allow himself to become starstruck. He released her and bowed again, over and over.
Thank you, Holy Mother. Thank you.
She stilled him, that whispery laugh escaping her again. He had done it. Yami would be pleased. But more importantly, Rinku would bring his family back together. Next time on Destined to Drown.
A criminal's closest companions are other criminals.
Oi, Yami, you rat-faced scallywag. What are you doing here?
You don't fool me, dealer.
You'd be surprised at the kind of information a mere dealer collects over time.
I have taken refuge here in your town. I hope that is all right.
Why, of course. Our doors are open to all. Mubo went to a dealer before he was killed. Someone who arranged for him to find those pirates.
With Yami involved, danger is inescapable.
What are you doing in here?
I was waiting for you.
As he swam deeper, his breath began to run out. He opened it, and an object floated up into his waiting hands.
I will bring you a Hylian.
You will bring me whoever I tell you to bring me.